Welcome y'all, it's Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Today we're talking about cereal grains. Which one should you plant on your farm? Oats, cereal rye, or winter wheat? I have planted all of these on my food plots before and I have a strong preference for one out of the three. I'm going to show you what I like about them, some of the differences in them, and which ones that you should plant and some of the advantages that you get. Typically what you're going to do, you're going to go in late fall. So you're talking somewhere in the September, October range. For most of the Midwest, you're gonna either disc up or you're gonna no-till. You're gonna sow these cereal grains and then disc them back under, hopefully before a good rain, and it's gonna pop up and go. So from there, you're gonna get some growth all fall long. Until you get into the dead of winter, it's gonna really slow down to basically nothing. And then in early spring, you're gonna start getting growth again. One of the best things that I like about cereal grain, I'm gonna have quality food for my whitetails over the entire winter. And then in the spring, they're gonna start growing. They're gonna get up. If you let them go, they're gonna get up close to waist high. And at that point, I like going in and then I kill them down. These deer are not actually interested in the seed. I'm not saying that you're not gonna see a deer or two munching on a seed head, but for the most part, that's not going to be a food source for whitetails. When that stuff falls over, it's adding a ton of organic matter to your soil. It gives your fawns a ton of great habitat. What I like best about it, when all of that cereal grain falls over, it shades the ground. That is a big time advantage when you're going into another annual the following spring. All of that residue on top of the ground really prevents a lot of weeds from coming up. You're gonna notice a significantly less amount of weeds where you've had cereal rye, oats, or winter wheat. It's just from them shading the ground. Now, if you plant it too thin, you're not gonna have that effect. I try to shoot for about 100 pounds of seed per acre. You can go down as low as 40, 50 pounds with any of these cereal grains. I like to keep that higher and keep up in the 100, maybe even just a little bit higher than that range. Buck forage oats are my favorite by far. They have issues when planted way up north with winter kill. We had about 5 days here last year where we had 0 degrees was the high. My buck forage oats did just fine and dandy, no trouble whatsoever. Cereal rye and winter wheat, they're not gonna overkill like the buck forage oats are going to. So if you're worried you're a little too far north, you might wanna try the cereal rye or the winter wheat. All three are a cereal grain, but the cereal rye is more attracted to whitetails in my area rather than the winter wheat. Cereal rye is definitely for me number 2 on the list. Winter wheat is number 3. All right, I'm gonna share a tip with you that has really worked for me in high density deer zones where you struggle getting a stand. If you will let the buck forage oat, winter wheat, or cereal rye get up about 15 to 18 inches tall and spray them and immediately plant them with a no-till planter, what it does, it makes those whitetails not want to stick their face down in all this pokey stubble, essentially, is what's left, and it makes those whitetails not want to stick their face down in there and get poked, and your beans will get established almost immediately. And I've done this several years in a lot of ag areas where the density is super high. But the key to it is killing that cereal rye, winter wheat, or buck forage oat before it gets too big. If it gets 3 feet tall and you spray, it's just going to fall over, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're going for. But if you're going to try to protect your crop, you want to try to spray it in that 15 to 18 inch range. And I'm talking when you need it thick. You need 100 pounds an acre sown last fall when you're going to do this. But then you can go in there with a no-till planter and plant, and then all those plants that are just sitting here like this, a whitetail doesn't want to stick its face 15 inches down in there. So when you're planting these cereal grains, what I like to do is I like to throw about 100 pounds per acre of any of the three. Personally, what I like to do is right before planting, I like to mix in anywhere between 30 and 50 pounds of actual nitrogen. That's not one bag, 50 pound bag, 50 pounds of actual nitrogen down on that plot. That's gonna keep that dark green color that you're wanting, highly nutritious to those whitetails. I would not worry so much about P and K at this point. Hopefully you did that in the spring and you're building your soil. I would just worry about that nitrogen. Anything south of Kentucky, I'm gonna recommend buck forage oats. Those are absolutely the berries for y'all that are not worried about winter kill. A really good day to shoot for on these cereal grains is around your very first frost date. Get on Google, type that in, and you'll be able to see your average frost date lines up perfectly with when I want to plant these. Your rifle season starts November 15th. I'm backing up until about the end of October, somewhere in there. I like to give it 2 to 3 weeks after sowing for the whitetails to find it and start using it a lot. That's when I like to do it myself. Anything north of Kentucky, I would go with cereal rye. You might try some buck forage oats up there, but I definitely wouldn't gamble all my farm on buck forage oats when we know that winter kill's an issue in that colder climate. Important note to mention, if you're going to use these as a nurse crop, which you absolutely can to get like a clover plot established this fall, plant the clover and the oats and the wheat when clover's supposed to be planted. Do not wait until when the oats are supposed to be planted. Oats and the wheat and the cereal rye will do fine planted early. The reason I like it planted a little bit later, it keeps it small, young, and tender. If I was to go out right now, here late July, and plant any of these cereal grains, they would do fine. But the problem is they're gonna be this tall by the time deer season gets here, and they're not gonna be useful to your deer at that point. I like anything about 6-8 inches or less is when the deer are gonna just absolutely hammer them. And these things grow rapidly. You throw the nitrogen to them, you are gonna be shocked just how fast these things get out of the ground and start getting some growth. But you're gonna be equally as surprised how many deer hammer these plots and keep them from getting big, which is the whole point of this. You're giving them quality feed across the winter when they don't have anything else. These plots are going to be the berry all through hunting season, and then January, February, March, before spring green up, these things are going to be solid green, and they're going to be pulling whitetails, helping your deer get back up to weight from the previous rut. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Smash that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you.